evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeff Crouere, and welcome to another edition of Ringside. We are jam-packed tonight. We're going to be talking about this drug epidemic. An expert's going to be with us. We're going to be talking about what's going on in Orleans Parish with the DA. And then we're going to be looking at some options to what to do with Lee Circle and what to do with those statues that were taken down. An activist who's really involved in that is going to be joining us, also an author and a former mayor. But right now, let's start with some of the top news stories we're following right here on Ringside. Boy, the former FBI director, he's on the attack. He was brought in for questioning recently by the Republicans in Congress, but used it as an opportunity to attack Republicans, attack the president, and advocate for the Democrats. And talk about being partisan. This is a guy who was a former FBI director. Now we know where his partisan leanings are. Thank goodness someone like that is no longer FBI director. Thank goodness the FBI hopefully has moved in a better direction. And again, I wonder why he has not been himself indicted for some of the crimes that he has committed. One thing that we do know is going to be happening in the days ahead. The 2020 presidential race is really going to start now. It's going to be 2 years of a race, and some of the candidates already are presenting themselves on the Democrat side. We could have Joe Biden, former vice president. We could have Hillary Clinton again, Bernie Sanders again. We could have Beto O'Rourke. And I wouldn't rule out the possibility of Michelle Obama maybe being pressured into the race as a way to save it for the Democrats. We shall see. Across the pond, it's certainly messy for Theresa May and her party there in the UK. The Brexit plan, where they were going to get out of the EU, has now hit roadblock after roadblock. Who knows what's going to happen there? Another case where the will of the people is being thwarted by bureaucrats. The people of the UK voted to get out of the EU. The powers that be are not letting them get out. So that is another situation that we're seeing here in the US. And finally in France, they've got another problem there because their president wanted to enact fuel taxes to propose climate change initiatives. Protests, called the Yellow Vest protests, erupted across the country. Now the taxes have been withdrawn. Now the president is scrambling by offering benefits and trying to buy off the protesters. But this is a good thing, that the people rejected more big government, rejected this whole climate change nonsense, and finally you had a politician who had no choice but to listen. When we come back, we'll talk to our friend Charles Marsala, former mayor, author, researcher. We'll find out what's going on with those statues that were taken down by Mayor Landrieu and what could be an exciting new plan for Lee Circle. That's next, right here on Ringside. All right, welcome back, folks. Pleased to have with us a friend of the program. He's an author, he's a researcher, a former mayor. Got the website, mynameheist.com. Charles Marsala is with us. And Charles, welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. Good to be here.
You've been working for a long time to try to make sure that those monuments that were taken down go back in the proper place. You fought the efforts to remove them. And you've really been at the forefront of trying to come up with an idea to redevelop Lee Circle that is now just a barren pedestal. And I like your idea, and I certainly want to support it. And it's called Victory Circle.
Yes, it is.
Tell us about it.
Well, and actually, I want to say Frank Stewart came up with the words Victory Circle. I was thinking Veteran Circle or something else, and Frank said that's it. And then once you see it, it makes so much sense. We have victory bonds, we have victory gardens, the victory bells of the museum. So we started seeing so much activity. Next year is the 75th anniversary of D-Day, and there's a lot of interest. These victory bells are all over the place. So yes, it's a wonderful idea to be inclusive, all wars, all races, Tuskegee Airmen, the Navajo Code Talkers. Frank brought up the WACs, the women that got into the Navy during World War II, the Merchant Marines. So it's a chance to modernize it, much like Arlington Cemetery was Lee's cemetery, and now it's got 400,000 people that are honored there with being buried there.
We're showing folks some images that you provided to us of the potential here. And right now, it's just a barren pedestal, and it's such a focal point, and you would think that there would be a priority really to do something with it.
Well, and actually, Jeff, next year the hotel's going to reopen there. It's going to be called the Andrew Higgins Hotel. The pavilion, the Bollinger, has donated $20 million for that canopy. There's a lot of money going into that World War II museum. So it would just seem like a natural to connect Because if you look through past that pedestal, you see the World War II museum.
Right.
sign.
Now, some said, oh, well, it's also going to honor Robert E. Lee, and that they were upset about that. I think there was one critic in the newspaper. So respond to that if you could.
You know, from my end, the Robert E. Lee Association put up the money initially to fund that. They took 14 years. I've read it's a 50,000 word, 14,000 words their dedication speech, 50 pages. Nothing bad, nefarious, or any evil intent when they put that monument up, other than to honor a man who did a lot for New Orleans. I mean, he tamed the Mississippi. The Louisiana Tigers fought under him. So it was done with the right spirit. But you would put up a plaque there that still says this was the original intent. This is what was done. We're modernizing. You can do that in a graceful manner it's not. That shouldn't offend people.
What's the next step? You have to get the mayor's approval for this?
We've approached the mayor's office. The senior advisor met with Frank and I. We presented it to him. I think the mayor's had a lot on her plate, so we're hoping now that this does become a priority, because we'd love to have something in place. And then also, what we're finding out is there's Gold Star Family Day, there's Purple Heart Day, Vietnam Veterans Day. So as you start to roll into next year, besides Memorial Day, D-Day, Veterans Day, there's so many ways to honor our veterans that we're not taking advantage of. And if you have that circle, you can have parades there, like we have in Harrison and Lakeview for Veterans Day.
Right.
There's just so much that could be done, I think, to bring in more people to the community, and the museum would benefit from that.
Right. Have you talked to the D-Day Museum about this? What are their thoughts about it?
We have started those discussions and letting them know where we are with it. I haven't heard a word back yet on that. Actually, one of the things I do is I made a documentary about the Victory Bells and what they're doing. So we started letting the museum know we exist, and Frank has been behind that museum from day one.
Right.
So he has reached out to them. We've started talking to some of their other donors to see what they think, and we've heard back. Some of them said tone it down. The first presentation we did, they said they thought it was too busy. And I have to say, I have a problem with being too busy at times.
Right.
So we've tried to make it simpler, and then we're going to work out the details. The idea right now is get the concept approved. And then we can figure out, do we put an eagle at the top, the Goddess of Liberty at the top? Do we leave it like the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier?
Yeah.
And, you know, there's...
I like the eagle. Represents, our country, symbol of our nation.
That we got a lot of response for the eagle.
Yeah.
And the initial idea I had was, it was a starting point. So now I think that that would be a great solution.
Now, we've got just a few minutes left, and again, I think it's very exciting to be able to have something that unifies people, step forward as opposed to just a barren pedestal now. What happens to the old monuments? You've got an idea about that too.
Right. We were working on those, and by luck, so to speak, or timing is everything. A new museum is opening up river in Darrow, which is about an hour drive from here, about 20 minutes south of Baton Rouge. That museum is 20,000 square feet. The gentleman lives on St. Charles that got the grant to build it. He owns Homer's House. He owns a lot of warehousing in Elmwood, so he's got the financial backing. The federal government gave him over $5 million to help restore tourism to the river road. So he's building this beautiful museum that's going to have a river overlook there, and it will showcase the river from 1700 to 1900. And these monuments would fit well in the inside, which the ordinance said they need to go inside. So that's one solution. And then should the city modify that, he's got an amphitheater in the back that's open to Ascension Parish.
And we're looking at some of the pictures, I guess, of what's going on there, and certainly anything that would be an improvement over a warehouse is what they're in right now.
Well, it's not even a warehouse.
A shed?
It's a shed, and I think we've been lucky. We've had 2 hurricane seasons pass by that didn't blow over that shed, because then they would fall over on each other.
Right.
And I think that shed is just an accident waiting to happen.
Right.
So if we could get them to at least to this museum and then figure out where to go from there, because he said he would be willing to give them back to the city or do whatever it takes, provided he'd be able to make a copy of them for having spent the money to pick them up and store them. And that's a great solution.
And again, this has got to be decided by the city council or the mayor, or who exactly?
The city council should have to give a vote on this to decide. The mayor, I think, gives a recommendation, asks to be put on the agenda. So you want the mayor's support, you want the council's support, and we are going to start letting the council know that these are our proposals. It's a 45-page proposal on Victory Circle.
Right.
And it's available. There's a website. Mine is my book, but also victorycircle.org.
Right.
We'll let anybody see that proposal.
So, what kind of timeline in our final 30 seconds are we looking at here? Do you think by this time next holiday season, next Christmas season, we'll have a resolution here?
I am pushing hard because that museum gets finished construction in March, and they want the exhibits up by June. So you can't go to the guy after he spent $1 million on other exhibits and say,
Right.
we now approve this. They need
Right.
to decide this would work.
And the Victory Circle idea you want to have done by D-Day, which is in June.
In June, at least get us started, that we've had an announcement, a ceremony, and we're moving forward with it.
The
Absolutely.
75th anniversary of D-Day.
They're going to fly planes over
Right.
Normandy, the vintage planes.
Right. So that would be an exciting collaboration there, connection, makes a lot of sense. Charles,
Perfect.
thank you. Thank you so
Jeff.
much. And for more information, check out monumentalheist.com, Charles' website, all kind of good info on there. When we come back, we're going to talk about this opioid crisis. Gentleman's done a lot of research on it. Former